Story 1. I have no friends and no life. I don't go out. I have cousins who are my age, in their early 20s, and they think I'm a weirdo, which I probably am to others. I struggle with alcoholism. Story 2. I have friends I have known for over 50 years. I rarely go out, but we often have dinner together. I still cook because that is how I learned to encourage friendships. I am an introvert who reads about 300 pages every day. The book club is where I gather with my kind. Awkward people unite for supper. Story 3. I would say I am struggling. I am a dedicated workaholic who often skips social events, even though I am quite extroverted. Took me a long time to learn how to have fun and allow myself to enjoy it. On the other hand, this focus has greatly benefited my career. Was it worth it? Ask me in 10 years. Story 4. I sometimes have difficulty holding conversations with friends, and I struggle to keep in touch as well. I wish I had developed more friendships during my childhood. Story 5. I improved my social skills and learned how to fit in. However, I still experience long periods of disinterest in socializing, often lasting over 5 years, during which I feel too exhausted and depressed to engage with others. This is usually followed by a strong desire to reconnect, but I find myself too isolated to make that happen. It becomes a cycle that continues until I have few connections left, and I must start over. One of these days I will get it right. Story 6. It's really difficult. I feel like crying when I have to go outside. I'm afraid to go outside. I struggle to make conversation, and when I do, except with my one friend, parents, and siblings, my voice sounds like I'm crying. I don't think I will ever be able to stand up for myself. I always feel like I need to explain myself to others. I feel like I have no life. Story 7. I feel highly depressed and constantly handle conflicts within my friend groups due to lacking basic social skills. This creates resentment and discomfort around me, despite my efforts to improve. Story 8. It is pretty much the same when it comes to socializing. Although it is not diagnosed, I am likely on the autism spectrum. I have limited conversational skills. If I don't know you, I can engage for about 5 minutes. I push myself to attend a few concerts every couple of years, but it is a struggle due to sensory overload and anxiety. The same applies to parties and similar events. When things get loud and chaotic, I know it is time to leave. Story 9. I didn't socialize as much as normal kids, but I definitely socialized more than I do now. I prefer to stay home with my pets and watch movies, read, or take naps. I've become comfortable being alone. Story 10. I am very introverted and rarely go out unless necessary. It improved in my late teens and early 20s when I found my friends, but as I grew older and my lifestyle changed drastically, I now only maintain contact with a few friends through text messages. I need my peace and quiet. I enjoy spending time on my solo hobbies, and my cat is enough company for me. Story 11. I don't socialize as an adult. I can if I have to, but generally I'm happiest alone in silence in bed, on my laptop reading or writing. Story 12. I can socialize as part of my job as a trial attorney, but it is mentally exhausting. I decompress by reading and playing single-player video games. Story 13. I did socialize when I was young, but I pretty much stopped in middle school. I was lucky enough to reconnect with a childhood friend, and we've remained friends ever since. He also introduced me to a new friend. However, my social anxiety has worsened, and the thought of making new friends feels impossible, as does the idea of getting a girlfriend. My anxiety around women my age is like something out of a cartoon or movie. I often struggle to talk. Not just to them, but to anyone, and sometimes even struggle to walk, which is hard to explain, but it happens and is frustrating. Fortunately, I have moved past the desperate need to find a girlfriend and am content being mostly alone, except for occasionally hanging out with my friends. Story 14. Incredibly strange? I literally don't know how not to be. I grew up homeschooled, thinking everyone outside of my church was evil and that I was not supposed to talk to males. I enjoy socializing, but I don't understand how people are supposed to act. They seem to like me anyway. Story 15. I still do not really socialize. I can pretend to be normal for a short time, but my unique traits quickly begin to show if I am excited or agitated about something. Story 16. Also autistic like many others. I remain a social, although I have found a way to manage and actively participate in my community. Story 17. From first grade to fifth grade, I was bullied by teachers and peers simply because I had head lice. In first grade, on a random Tuesday, we had an inspection. Even though there were others with head lice, I was targeted by my teachers. My teacher literally told everyone to boycott me until I got rid of the head lice. No one sat with me or talked to me. Even at home, things were difficult. I was the youngest of 5, and my parents didn't pay much attention to me for about 5 years, which I consider crucial for a child's mental development. I was known as the girl with head lice. My teachers used to hit me, which at that time I didn't realize was unacceptable. School was hell for me. I felt really lonely during recess when I watched kids playing around, but I never hated my own company. I started to daydream, spending hours in my mind without realizing when the day ended. Fast forward to today, I'm 19, and I don't find socializing hard, but I don't get attached to people easily. For some reason, I don't expect them to stay for long. In the back of my mind, I know I have to let them go, so I never get emotionally attached. For example, my best friend of 4 years randomly replaced me with another girl, and I didn't really care. I just moved on. I don't drag people along with me if they don't fit into my life. I just keep walking and leave them behind. My childhood does affect my social life now, but I think in a positive way. I now believe that I came into this world alone and will die alone. The people I meet are just passengers who will get off at their stop and aren't here forever, so there's no point in forming deep connections. Story 18. I developed a severe form of social anxiety and was awkward around people for a long time. I am still not great at picking up on social cues, but I have come a long way. Story 19. I had significant social anxiety growing up and made an outgoing friend who helped me begin to overcome it. Once I reached my early 20s, I started going to bars, which significantly reduced my social anxiety. Putting myself in uncomfortable situations allowed me to realize there was nothing to fear. Story 20. Met and married my husband and have no need or desire for any social interaction outside of that. We are seriously considering retirement to a remote location with no neighbors because we both dislike being around others. Story 21. I wasn't encouraged to socialize as a child. My parents were focused on their image and believed everyone around us was up to no good. They found children playing to be annoying and also had a drinking problem, which made them reluctant to drive me places after school. College was very challenging. I met other autistic and queer individuals, gained a close friend, and eventually met my husband. However, it is agonizing for me to put myself out there to befriend new people. I either become overly attached or avoid them at all costs. I also tend to share too much about myself. I recently experienced a difficult breakup with my best friend and am struggling to make new friends. I am also terrified of embarrassing myself every time I speak. I work on a large campus, and whenever my boss offers me a ride, since I don't have the parking pass that leadership has, I feel anxious and nervous in the car. Story 22. I found a decent job, although it is not aligned with my skill set. It is slow-paced, and I interact with people in 10 to 15-minute increments before they leave. I have discovered that this time range works perfectly before needing to move on. Story 23. I wanted to socialize as a child, but my parents wouldn't let me. I never learned how to make friends. As an adult, my only companions are my cats. However, I adjust to new cities fairly quickly and have received a few promotions because I am willing to move across the country on short notice. Story 24. I am fairly certain that I am autistic, so I was never comfortable being around large groups of people. As an adult, I have improved a bit, but now I experience anxiety and depression, so it feels like no progress has been made. Story 25. People who are very funny often grew up in circumstances that were not funny at all. As a child, I was quite reserved and insecure. I didn't socialize much and kept to myself. But as an adult, I found that humor became my compass. I play with it constantly and somehow manage to place it just right. Even in the most serious situations, people often call me disarming because of it. Humor helps me connect, break tension, and bring light into heavy moments. It's not just a tool, it's a survival instinct turned into a superpower. Story 26. Emotionally stunted or having a personality disorder, possibly with a touch of autism. After many therapists, whatever it is has not improved. Story 27. Homeschooled and isolated until 11 years old. I can't count the number of times I heard the phrase, "Why don't you talk?" From 7th grade to graduation. I didn't make many friends as a child and faced consequences for talking to friends too much. I also got in trouble at other times for not having any friends. As an adult, I find little interest in maintaining any level of relationship, whether friendships or otherwise. At this point, I simply do not care or desire connections. I interact with people politely for work and other necessary situations, but other than that, I prefer to be alone all the time. I haven't had a pet for about 13 years, and I don't want one anymore. Story 28. Once you reach a certain age, you realize that many people only socialize with you if they want something or can gain some benefit from you. Can be exhausting to discover this. Additionally, many people are insufferable to be around, often gossiping about those they have just been with, only to treat them like best friends when they are present. A significant number of people still exhibit a high school mentality, filled with constant drama and unnecessary complaints. Most of this behavior is quite petty. I cannot stand gossip and petty drama, yet many people thrive on it. Life is much simpler when you keep your head down and focus on your own business without the surrounding nonsense. I think this behavior is also influenced by culture. Many people my age enjoy going out to clubs and bars and getting drunk every weekend. It's just not my thing. You don't have to be intoxicated or have a drink in hand to enjoy yourself. I often joke that I am an old soul in a young person's body because my interests lean toward simple pleasures and reflective activities, contemplating life and the philosophical mysteries of this beautiful and peculiar existence. People usually disengage when I start discussing these topics or change the subject entirely. Story 29. I had to overcome a lot of anxiety and obsessive-compulsive disorder about social interactions through exposure and response prevention therapy. It's not that I never socialized as a child, but I was typically very hesitant to talk and was always second-guessing what I was going to say and whether I heard things correctly. Story 30. Weird and shy, but also eager to socialize. I realize the older I get, the more I need people. Story 31. A homeschooled individual was hired where I worked, and I was assigned to train him in the delivery and installation of appliances. The person was difficult to train, as he talked constantly and wandered off, bothering homeowners and trying to engage them in political discussions. A couple of times, he convinced customers to give him items he found around the house, such as a pair of hiking boots and a rusty shotgun barrel. I continued to try to keep him focused, but it was ineffective. My supervisors advised me to persist. Since I received a flat rate for installations, it was frustrating to manage his behavior. Finally, I informed my supervisors that I would charge them a $100 surcharge to work with him. He was gone the next day. Story 32. When I went on my first date with my wife, she immediately observed two things. I had no social skills whatsoever, and I was probably worth getting to know anyway. Recently, I realized that I fit in nowhere but am accepted everywhere, which is a contradiction. I've probably been introduced to a lot of groups as weird, but chill. I guess it's kind of working for me, but I think it would still be better to have social skills. Story 33. I am somewhat of a loner who knows how to communicate and interact with others. However, I still need my breaks afterward. Story 34. I was homeschooled as a child and was the youngest of 3 siblings, with an age gap between me and my older siblings. I have often felt isolated and have had a hard time making friends and engaging in conversation with people in person. Story 35. I am sociable and friendly and do well at meeting new people. However, I struggle with maintaining stable relationships and tend to distance myself from others quickly. I often do not realize that this behavior can hurt people, as I secretly hope they will distance themselves from me as well. Story 36. We do not socialize because we want to, but because we have to. I have never felt the need to socialize. Story 37. Not officially diagnosed, but I am pretty certain I am on the spectrum. No matter who you are or what we are discussing, I am just pretending to care. I really don't. After about 3 hours, I need to leave and be by myself. If I could upload my consciousness to a computer and learn without ever speaking to anyone again, I would do it in a heartbeat. The older I get, the less interested I am in others. Story 38. I don't feel very lonely, but I do get bored when I am alone. When I am with people, my social energy usually drains quickly, even when I am with company I truly enjoy. Story 39. Even worse, it possibly caused some damage, or I may have some form of neurodiversity. I am painfully aware that my brain operates differently than others. It seems to work faster and more efficiently, but it also causes some other issues. Story 40. I can't say that I didn't socialize at all, but my day was pretty much spent at school from 7 a.m. until noon. I would then go home for lunch, return to school around 1 to 1:30 p.m., study until 4 to 5 p.m., go home, take a shower, have dinner, attend piano class from 7 p.m. until 9 p.m., return home, do homework, and then go to bed. During the weekends, if I didn't visit my grandparents, I would have maybe 3 to 4 hours to socialize with kids in the neighborhood. Because of that, I was quite shy and socially awkward every time I met new people. However, when I grew up, it took a 180-degree turn when I worked in customer service. I became more talkative and went out with friends and my close clients pretty often. People can change. Story 41. I was shy as a child. I had a few friends, but I generally didn't enjoy social situations or being in public. Now, as an adult, I am very outgoing and often start conversations with strangers. I believe that being thrust into social situations due to work and family helped me develop this outgoing nature. Story 42. I found my confidence once I was away from my emotionally immature parents and received treatment for obsessive-compulsive disorder. Story 43. I am more vocal and not afraid to socialize or speak in public. This is mainly because public speaking became a part of my job and has gotten easier over time. One thing I have noticed is that I tend to steer conversations to focus more on myself, which is unusual. Story 44. I am pretty sure I am on the spectrum. When I was a child, I was extremely quiet and reserved because I often thought about things in a completely different way than everyone else. It often felt like I had nothing of value to say to anyone. I forced myself to be social in college because I did not want to be a loner again, and I am glad I at least did that. I still experience significant social anxiety and continue to think about things differently from others, but I am now able to start conversations and engage in small talk without it being obvious. I have become very skilled at appearing completely calm while my mind is overwhelmed with stress and anxiety. Story 45. I tried socializing as an adult, but the world changed around me, and now everyone socializes in mysterious places, possibly the gym or online. I really don't know because I don't like those types of gyms, and I don't like jumping through unnecessary obstacles with anyone online either. They definitely don't socialize anywhere else. Story 46. Somehow, I became an extrovert in college and now have many friend groups. I believe I was introverted not by choice. Story 47. I am okay with professional socialization but cannot do it in my personal life. Not even online. It is difficult living in a small town because there is nothing to do, so I hope to move soon to a larger city. At least then I can engage in more outdoor activities alone. I am glad I am not the type of person who is content living in a small town and doing everything online, as that would lead to wasting my life. I feel very understimulated, so I need to make a change. Story 48. I find socializing to be exhausting. It is not due to anxiety. I simply prefer to keep to myself rather than engage in talking, listening, or caring. Story 49. My job required me to interact with the public, and as I progressed in my career, I began speaking publicly with heads of agencies and other important individuals. I pushed myself to engage in these activities at work while remaining at home when not working. Story 50. I wasn't allowed to socialize as a child because they thought it would give me ideas. I am highly social now. Story 51. I found it difficult to have conversations. I wanted to socialize, but my medical condition prevented me from doing so. Story 52. I am still a valid person. Socializing like a neurotypical and like an extrovert should not be mandatory in any civilized culture. There are many ways of socialization, but only one is accepted as unique. And that is unethical. Story 53. I'm awkward and perfectly content doing my own thing most of the time. I have a few genuine friends I mostly interact with these days on social media due to distance and a few local friends through work, but I'm content just seeing them there. Occasionally, I wish I had more people in my community, but I have enough that if something went wrong, I know I could call them. My parents really made it hard to have friends or good social role models. My mother has struggled with mental illness, and my father was always working. I navigate life okay, but it took a lot of inner work to reach a place where I feel content and at peace with how my life is. Story 54. My job has helped me a lot. I work in customer service and I am now more open. I no longer hold back from sharing my thoughts. In the past, I let others dictate what I should do without voicing any concerns. Although my opinion may not always be taken into account, I now express it because it matters to me. Story 55. I'm quiet at first, but I open up once I'm around someone for a bit. Although I have a defensive trigger, my jobs have involved public speaking and training new employees. I deal with a lot of people, so it is not too bad. Story 56. Sorry, I was in a particular mindset and needed to change my perspective, which is why I express it this way. However, I understand that everyone is different in their experiences. Story 57. I was a shy kid. I was bullied and didn't have many friends. I was mostly on my own during my school and college years. It wasn't until I found my last job that I made incredible adult friends who shared my interests. I finally realized how much I crave social interaction. We have game nights at my house, go out to parties and dinners, and sometimes just hang out and talk all afternoon. Part of me wishes I had friends like this in school, but then I probably wouldn't have met the amazing people I'm friends with now. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.